Hello everyone, welcome to section Working with Stream and Lambda Expression. Topic: Implement function interfaces using Lambda expressions, including interfaces from java.util.function package. Please watch my video till the end. If you like my video, give thumbs up and click the bell icon to subscribe to my channel for the latest updates. Functional programming. It provides declarative style code, which means you specify what you want to do rather than dealing with the state of object. You focus more on expressions than loops. And fast processing. We use functional programming in stream programming, and stream is a new way of fast processing programming in Java. I will discuss about the stream in the next video. A little bit recap. Function interface. It contains a single abstract method, SAM. I have created one project in the IntelliJ named functional programming. I am going to create an interface, name my function, and I'm going to create one abstract method named test. And this abstract method is a single abstract method in the interface. For integrity, I can mention an annotation which checks that if there is more than one abstract method, it will give a compiler error. Now let's pass an animal object. I would like to create an animal class which has a field hop. Let's generate a getter method, and you can see that there is hop, not a get hop, for boolean field in the begin class. And now it's compiling accurately, excluding any public method already defined in the java.lang.object class. What it means? It means that the following methods do not count in SAM test. And what are those? Boolean equals object int hash code string to string. All right, these are already defined in the object class, so it won't count SAM test, single abstract method test. Cannot declare an interface method that is incompatible with object class. For example, int toString. Okay, so what would if I declare more than one overriding method? Compiler will give me an error that toString is already defined. Even though if it is not a functional interface, it won't allow me to do that. All right, remember that. Lambda expression. Lambda, a block of code that gets passed around, sort of like an anonymous class that defines one method. Let's create a variable checker. We have a method public boolean test animal a return a dot is hop. Okay, so what I'm trying to do right now here, I am trying to store a function into a variable. How could I do this one? For that, Oracle found that in Java 7, we used to do by anonymous classes. If I define a my function variable, we create an anonymous class, my function, and in that anonymous class we create a method. So a dot is hop, and now we are not only creating an object having a one method, we are storing a one method into a variable of type interface. So how could we take all the boilerplate code out and store a method into a variable? So they found public boolean test, we can get it from interface, so it is redundant. Put an arrow and it can pretty simple and readable, which is in Java 8. So in Java 8 Lambda, we are storing a function into an interface variable. Remember that behind the scene, anonymous class creates an object. They are inner classes, and lambdas, it doesn't create any kind of an object. It store method in the constant pool, same like as a string. It is very fast for processing. We could write this statement on one line. So it has taken out a lot of a clutter. The another way of refining this code is, if there is only one parameter, we can omit parameter type. And if there's one parameter, we can only write the parameter. So on the right hand side, if there is only one statement, we can take the curly bracket, return, and statement semicolon. This semicolon is for the Lambda expression. So I have taken out the additional semicolon for the statement, which is this one inside. So this is the most simplified form. We can mention bracket around a parameter. It's perfectly legal, or with a simplified form, or we could mention a type with a parameter in simplified form. In Java 8, they also introduce more declarative style, is called as method reference. So for the method reference, it increases the readability. You can write whole this statement or any of above statement like this. So looks like this is a method of an animal class. It could be static method, it could be instance method. I will discuss more when I'm going to explain method reference. In Java 11, they introduce Var keyword. We can use a Var keyword to declare Lambda expression. However, we need to define a type of var variable. So it doesn't give any kind of a benefit. To avoid confusion, I always would like to use this way. Alright, so how I see that a method is going into a variable, and what kind of a method can go inside, that could we see from the interface. So interface is this my function, which is a function interface, has a single abstract method named test having a parameter of animal. Okay, Lambda expression, a block of a code that gets passed around, sort of like an anonymous class that define one method, a method that you can pass as if there were a variable. You have seen that any function interface can be implemented as Lambda expression. You have seen that, and I have written like a function interface type, like my function and animal type f equals to Lambda expression or method reference. Okay, deferred execution, which is also called as lazy evolution. A code is specified now but will run later. It means that the evaluation of an expression delay until its value is needed. I will explain this one through the code. So you have seen that I was trying to put a method in a variable, and variable is a type of a function, and this is an anonymous class. We used to do like this. It creates an object, and this creates a method in the memory. So instead of creating whole object, only method in the memory is a fastest way of processing your code. So public boolean test we can get from an interface. It is redundant, so no need to write this one. However, we need to put an arrow between the parameter type and the body. This is all code in one line. We can omit the type of variable if there is only one parameter. We can omit parentheses if there is only one parameter. This is most simplified form. We can omit brackets and the return keyword with a semicolon if there is only one statement. We cannot do if there are more than one statement. With the most simplified form, you can write with a parenthesis around parameter and parameter with type. Now Java 8 has introduced another way of storing a method reference into a interface variable that is called as method reference. Similarly, method reference, the class name and the method, and in Java 11 they have introduced local variable inference, var keyword, but you have to mention a type of a variable, which is not very helpful. What would if you check what it stores in the variable? Let's run this class, and I found that this is the package name, this is a class name. $$ means that the class does not exist in a class file on the file system, and it is a method which is in the constant pool, and this is a hash code. I will explain the deferred execution through the code. In anonymous class, object has created in the memory, and to run the method we can simply do checker dot test and pass animal object. But here in the Lambda expression there is no object has created. We call this one as declaration. This is all declaration. And for execution, I would like to call a test method and send a new animal object. object has not created until we call the method. Here in anonymous class, the object has created. In the memory, in the lambda, object has not created until we call a method. It is called as lazy evolution or deferred execution. It is very beneficial for your memory resources because it doesn't occupy a lot of a space and object doesn't create. Difference between anonymous class and a lambda class. Anonymous class is an inner class. It has an instance in memory. Lambda is a static method in the memory. You have seen that. Anonymous class, keyword this represent inner anonymous class and keyword this represent enclosing class. Let's see that. I'm going to create another class name anonymous versus lambda. I'm going to create a method instance method. In this one, I'm going to create an anonymous class which implements the method run. So runable is in java.lang and this interface has only one single abstract method run. Pretty simple. I do s out this. This called as declaration, and if I do runable dot run, and this is called as execution. So you can see that declaration is separate from execution. If you would like to write the same code in lambda, how do you do that? Only 2 lines, declaration and execution. So now I am executing at the same place of declaration, but mostly what we do, we pass the execution into another method, and it depends upon the method when it executes. So which is a benefit of lambda expression. We can defer the execution. Let's call this method, and in this method it will first declare and run anonymous class and then the lambda. In the anonymous class we can create or declare another methods. But we cannot do in the lambda expression. As I said, if you call this in the anonymous class, it will call an object of anonymous inner class. But if you call this in the lambda expression, it will call the object of enclosing class. So you can see that it doesn't create an object, but this one creates an object. Okay, anonymous classes and lambdas are different. Let's run this one. All right, so the first anonymous inner class and the second one is parent outer class. Okay, we can also say that lambdas are pretty much like declaring any field. So this is a new way of declaring a field in which the value is a method body. Common functional interfaces. There are 42 functional interfaces in the package java.util.function, and these interfaces in this package are general purpose functional interfaces which we use for normal coding. I have made a functional interface, my function, which is pretty much same as a predicate, because it also have a one single abstract method, test, and pass an object, and return type is boolean. It has some static method, some default method, however only one abstract method. Let's see that. So I have this class. I'm gonna copy this one and paste as main2. Here I could use predicate, and I need to put the type here. Which serves the same purpose of my function. Okay, in the predicate there is a type over here, and instead of a specific object, the type is going into the method. It is really important to know type, return value, name of the function, and number of a parameter for each common functional interface. Please remember this table. It will help this video and next two videos on functional programming and stream programming. So common function interfaces. In this table I have mentioned some common function interfaces. Supplier, it has a single abstract method get. There is no parameter, means no input. Return type is t. There is an output. Supplier means you can get something. Consumer, it means that whatsoever we put in, it consumes and it doesn't return anything. Consumer has a method accept. We input something, it consumes and doesn't give any output. By consumer, two inputs. Whenever the word comes by, it means that inputs are two. Predicate, we have seen input process the condition and return are either true or false. By predicate, two inputs and then evaluate and return the result as a boolean. Function, it means we input, it process, and it could return the different type or the same type. Function has input and output. Input is t, output is r. By function means two input and one output. T u input, r is output. Unary operator, which require all type parameter to be the same. Unary operator extends from the function and input and output is the same type. Binary operator means is extends from binary function and all inputs and output is of same type. Okay. Method reference. So as we have seen that the most simplified form, we can write a class name, double colon, and the method name. How do we do? Let's see that. I'm going to create a class name method reference. In this class I'm going to create two constructors, name method reference and method reference int. Then I am going to create static method and the overloaded version of the first static method. Then I would like to create 3 instance method. And the second one has 1 parameter. The second one has 2 parameters. Then the common syntax of method reference is class name and double colon method name. So method could be static, instant, or constructor. So for the static method has no input and void output. So we know that runnable is a interface which has a one method with the same signature, okay, and the return type. What about the second one? So for the second one, let's say 2. So I'm gonna say 2 1. How I'm gonna store this one? So we know consumer, and we're gonna pass integer here because in the method signature there is an integer parameter. So this one going to refer second static method. The first one going to refer the first one, and the second one going to refer second one. Next, how do we call instance method? Like method reference instance method. For that, it is an instance. You need to create an instance. Var obj equals to new method reference, and then you need to call through an object. So this instance method is same like as run method in runnable. So I'm going to say runnable R31. Okay. How do I call the second one? R32. So in the second one has one input. So same like as above, consumer, integer. What about the third method? How can I call this one? So there are 2 inputs. So I could do by consumer. Okay. All right. We have seen the static one. and we have seen instance method on particular object. Class name, method name, instance variable, we create the object and then we call through the object. Instance method on a parameter, class name, method name. Parameter. So in this one we put instance in first parameter. What it means that, like if I would like to call without object, can I call? Yes, but there is a condition. You need to pass an instance in the first parameter. What it means? So this instance method, the above over here, has no parameter. Okay, so but we need the one has at least one parameter, because we need to pass an instance of method reference. So I could do like consumer method reference or for1 equals to method reference. So this one is pretty much same as obj dot instance method. Okay, so you are passing an object in the first parameter. All right, so in this way you are calling method, in this way you are calling instance method, this one right here. What about if I would like to call the second one with one parameter? So you know that how to do. We use by consumer. First is method reference and second one gonna be integer, because this is a type of parameter, and it is pretty much like this: obj comma, here parameter is a, let's put it over here, and then you can put a here. All right, so you can see that the object is calling instance method and you are passing an object as a parameter. Okay, all right, so I think don't need to write down the lambda expressions of others. Next, for the constructor you need to put the class name and then the new. So I do number one constructor, so the class name is method reference and new. So this one will reference the first constructor. So now you can see that it is giving an output. Is there any input? There is no input. So we know we have supplier, and supplier has a type of return type. So we need an object. Okay, there is no any by supplier. How could we do this one? So input is integer, output is method reference object. So as you know, this stays same. So we have function interface. Input is integer because integer is here. Okay, and output is method reference. So for the function you need to mention both of them. Okay, all right. This one is pretty much like this way. New method reference, and the below one is like A. I'm going to put A over here so you can relate it. Method reference and A. All right. The second one is storing the reference of second constructor. All right, so this is just storing the reference in the lambda if you want to execute. So declaration is separate than execution. All right, I hope you understand the method reference, and remember that there are no parentheses or anything with the parentheses in the method reference. There is a question in the exam. Supplier. A supplier is used when you want to generate or supply values without taking any input. So let's see that. I have a class named mySupplier, and I'm going to create a supplier reference of local date, and store the current date reference in the supplier reference. So I have declared, but I have not executed. This statement is same as local date dot now. Okay, so how could I get the date? I could do like this. Or I could do directly s1.get in the system.out method. All right, it's giving the current date. Next, let's store the reference of string builder class And this statement is pretty much same as this one, and I can do like this as b1 dot get. So get going to return an object of string builder type, and here I can append string builder. Okay, what about if we put another collection of type string, so it is also possible. And same, I can get an object which is stored inside by just calling a get method, and once I have an object I can add some text and I can print out. Okay, let's see that. The first one is date, second one is string builder, and third one is a collection. Okay, consumer. You use a consumer when you want to do something with a parameter but not return anything, and a by consumer do the same thing except that it takes two parameter. Okay, let's see that. So I made a class my consumer having a main method, and I say consumer and string c1 equals to system dot out is a print stream object and it has a method println. So this statement is pretty much same as that you are sending a string in this method. Okay, and if you write like c1 dot accept, write some name like Annie. This is example of consumer. What about the by consumer? For the by consumer, in the hash map there is a method name as put. So I would like to create a variable name map equals to new hash map, and string is a key and value is integer, and I would like to put the string and integer in the map. So how could I do that? So for that I need a by consumer, and same thing, string integer, and I'm going to say b1 equals to, so now you can see that this put method has two parameters, and I can assign this method reference to by consumer. All right, this statement is pretty much same as like this one, key value as we do, and map key value. Okay, I'm going to say b1 dot accept. So string is chicken and integer 7. Let's put one more, b1 dot accept chick and value 1. I'm going to say sout and map and see how it prints. Okay, chicken 7, chick 1. Next, predicate. So predicate is often used when filtering or matching. Let's see that. I have made a class my predicate, and let's make predicate string p1 equals to string is empty. So is empty is an instance method which returns a boolean value. So we are calling an instance method by passing a instance in the parameter. Okay, so this one is pretty much same like this one. Let's say object is str, right, which we are passing. Str dot is empty. Okay, so if I do like this, sout p1 dot test and see what the result would be. Let's see. So the result is true. Okay, let's use by predicate. For by predicate, I'm gonna do string and string send to string b1 equals to string and start with. So what is this actually? So it has an object string as a parameter and another string which use as prefix. So the object we pass, we are going to call a method starts with and put the prefix. Okay, look at that, how nifty it is. So if I say sout b1 dot test chicken and I say chick chick, and let's see that. So the prefix is chick or not, should be true. Yes, this is the prefix it starts with. Okay, next, function. Function is responsible for turning one parameter into a value of potentially different type and returning it. All right, and similarly by function is responsible for turning two parameters into a value and returning it. So you put the input and you get the output, and the type of the input and output you mention over here. All right, and here are two inputs and one output. Okay, let's see. So I have a class, my function class, and I'm going to create a method reference of one of the string method, which is length. So string length. So what it is doing, so length is an instance method. So str is an object of a string. We are passing an object, and then we are calling an instance method on the object. Okay, if I say sout, and this one has apply method, and I'm going to put the string cluck. All right, so it will return the length. So you have seen that we have defined everything over here. This is declaration and this is execution. In the execution, we just pass the value in the method of our functional interface method. So they could be at different places. It is very important for deferred execution, which I will explain next video. Let's make a method reference of by function. String. So two inputs are string and output is string. Okay, b1. And I am going to use a string class method concat. So what it does, so string object and the string which we want to add, we pass in the method, and the first object we going to call concat and pass to add in it. Okay, so this what is going on. So you can see that it's pretty long. So how we are calling an instance method through a method reference. All right, okay, very good practice. System.out b1.apply. So if I say baby, and next I say chick, so let's make a little bit space after baby, and it will print baby chick. All right, it has concatenated both of them. We have a by function. We do not have in Java a try function or a quad function. If you need it, then you can make it. Okay, like interface try function. So what you going to use, T, U, V, and R. R is for the return. Okay, and here you can use same, R is return, apply method, and then you can say T, U, and V. All right, for try function. What would if you want to use a quad function? How could you do that? Quad, T, U, V, and say W. Okay, and V and W. So now you can see that. Is it a functional interface? Yes, but it is a good practice if you put it over here, so there won't be any chances of mistake, and I highly recommend that put the override for the override methods. Okay, so that's good. Unary operator. Unary operator require all parameters to be same. A unary operator transforms its value into one of the same type. And unary operator is actually extends of function, as you can see that. So input and output is same. All right. And is it the function interface? So we're going to use the same apply method of function. We cannot make any other abstract method, otherwise it won't be a function interface. Same thing with the binary operator. It extends from by function, and we are sending all the same values in the parameter. So let's see that. So I have a class my operator and method unary operator, and I'm going to use again the string class u1 equals to string, has a method to uppercase. Okay, so to uppercase is an instance method. All right, so what it means actually, it means that we are passing an instance of a string object and calling to uppercase method. Okay, as out I'm going to say u1 dot apply, same in the function, and I'm going to say chirp chirp. All right, it changed chirp into uppercase. Let's see that. All right, we can see. All right, let's do binary operator, and then binary, so string means everything is a string, the same type. So I'm going to use the string concat. All right, previously we put 2 times string with by function, but here we need only 1 time. So what is actually this one is? This one is the same string object and then a string to add, and we are calling an instance method concat through an object str, and sending to add in the parameter. It's going to concatenate both of them and give the result. Okay, so b1 dot apply, and I say baby space, again we'll say chick. So let's see that. Okay, see, it has concatenated both of them. All right. Okay, so next I would like to give a small test, and pause the video, play again when you are ready. So this is a string and we are calling equals method, which we can call from any object, and we are passing a first element of a list. So equals return boolean. So we are passing and it returns a boolean. It is predicate. Next, in this method the argument is type long and is printing, but it's not returning anything. So it's consuming. So it's consumer consumes, and supply return, and function also return. This one has 2 string as input and returning boolean. So it is by predicate. All right. Check your answers. If you like, if you can change this one into the method reference. Okay. There is a problem with these three statements, and they do not compile. So what is the problem? Functions have two parameters than one parameter, and this lambda expression is returning the first element of list of string. So it is string. All right. So it is really important to know the number of the parameter, types, return values, and method name for each of the function interfaces. All right. Unary operator. This one has a little bit problem, because if say long, then everything should be long. To make it right, what you need to do, either put here long, so it will convert 3.14 into long, but it will do actually anything after decimal, it will truncate, or you can put L here. Okay, these are two ways. Next is predicate without any type, so string. All right, so we have solved it. It is really important to know the number of parameter, types, return value, and method name for each of the function interfaces. So you have to memorize the table. Convenience methods. Convenience methods are static and default method in the function interfaces, and these methods facilitate modifying or combining functional interfaces of same type. We will go over all of them. Let's see. I have made a class convenience method as a public method. First, see the convenience method in predicate. I'm going to create an instance of predicate string. This lambda expression returns true if the string contains egg. So this is calling an instance method by a passing object. I'm gonna make another lambda expression and call it brown equals to str dot contains brown. Let's make another predicate string instance and name as brown eggs, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to write str and str dot contains egg and str dot contain brown, then return true through this expression. So this is a pretty gigantic expression. How could we make it sweet and short? For that, you could do like this: egg dot and. So and method is going to join both of them, and you can put brown. All right. So if there is a short circuit OR, you can also use here OR. There is a method OR as well. Okay. And now you do the brown eggs dot test and send egg brown and see what it is. So it is true. Okay. What about if I have another expression name other eggs? So it contains eggs, but it doesn't contain brown. How do we write this one with our convenience method? So we do eggs dot and brown dot negate. All right. So as we put not here, we can use negate with a brown. It serves the same purpose. Now let's see consumer interface. In consumer interface of type string, I am going to pass a string and print that string. And create the second one, call as 2 and take the ln from here. Make the third one consumer string, name as combined, equals to, if I say c1 dot and then c2, so what would happen? So it will execute the first lambda expression and then the second lambda expression, and both are independent of each other. All right. So I say combine dot accept and a n-i-e-n-e. So what it does, see that? So you can see that if I call the accept method on combine, it has called lambda expression number 1 and lambda expression number 2, and also combine both of them. Okay. Let's see the convenience method in function interface. I'm going to create a functional interface instance. Input is integer, output is integer, and it is before x plus 1. All right. Whatsoever we put in, we add 1 in that. So I'm going to create one more, and we call it after. And what we're going to do, whatsoever we put in, we multiply by 2. Okay. and I'm gonna create a third instance call as combined and 2, and first we call after and say and then before. So it will first execute after and then before. Okay, so I say combine 2 dot apply 3. So how it works? So after is multiply, it is going to 3 multiply by 2, and whatsoever the result comes, it goes in before this one, and before result plus 1, so result plus 1. So the total answer would be 7. Let's see. Okay, so this one has one more method, which is called as compose. So what compose does? Compose will call before first and then after. So before is 3 plus 1, and then call after, which is multiply by 2. So 3 plus 1, 4, 4 multiplied by 2 is 8. So let's see that. Answer is 8. Okay, so we have seen these methods, and then is in consumer and a function. The one in the consumer return type is consumer and parameters of consumer. Function return type is function and method parameter function. Compose same function and function. In the predicate and predicate, and in negate return type is predicate, method parameter none. Next, variable in Lambda expression. So in the parameter list of Lambda expression, it is allowed to use var instead of parameter type. So there are 3 questions, and in each question I have asked what is the type of x. Pause the video, get your answer, and then come back. So in the first Lambda expression, we are sending a string, and after that the expression is returning true. So the value of x is string. Next method, what am I, has a call to test method which has predicate integer. So this can hold a Lambda expression. So as we can see that the type of integer is in predicate, so x is integer. Next, in the collection we have a sort method. In the sort, both parameters are of integer, so x is type of integer. So if var is used for one of the types in the parameter list, then it must be used for all parameters. We cannot mix var with another types. The first one is completely legal, second one bracket is missing, third legal, fourth we put the integer. So we change integer to var or var to a type. You cannot mix var with types. So one is var, then everything is var. Same thing over here, and all are var, it's good, and this one has missing var. Okay, so we cannot do like that. Next, local variable inside lambda body. Cannot create a local variable with the same name as one already declared in that scope. What it means. So the first statement is completely legal because we are not declaring any variable inside the method body which is already in the scope. However, in the second statement we are redeclaring a, which is a parameter of lambda expression, so it won't compile. The third method, we use a parameter of a method in a lambda expression parameter, which is not allowed, and we declared the local variable in the lambda expression, which is not allowed. Okay, I remember that we cannot declare parameters and local variables once we use in the lambda expression. So it doesn't compile, right? Variable reference from lambda body. So rules for accessing a variable from a lambda body inside a method. So I'll come back on this table. Let me explain you through example. Let's see. I have created one class named Closure, and this class has instance variable and one static variable. I'm going to create one instance method and it has one parameter and it has one local variable. So instance and static variable at the field level are initialized by default, but we have to initialize local variable before we use them. Okay, and I am going to create an instance of predicate string, name as p, and what I do, I am going to pass a string as an object and then concatenate instance variable, parameter, local variable, static variable, and get the length, and if the length is equals to 10, then return true. Okay, so lambda bodies are allowed to use static variables, local variables, and final or effective final instance or parameters, local variables. Okay, so what it means? It means that if I change the value of parameter, so compiler will give me error. So local variable should be final or effectively final. Final means the value cannot change. Effectively final means even though we do not write the final, but it work as a final. Okay, so by default we want to think in such a way that whenever we use a parameter, if it's not changing the value and final is not mentioned, then this is effective final. If later we want to change the value, compiler will give error. So same thing with the local variable, because parameters and local variables are local in a method. What about static variable? And we can change the value of static an instance variable, but we cannot change the object or a value of both local variables, parameter and local variable. Okay, so same thing is over here, that inside a lambda body we can use instance, static, local, method parameter, and if we have some parameter in the lambda. So local variable and method parameter, they must be final or effectively final. If you do not mention the final, then you can not change the value. So what is the effective final test? If I write the final, so with effectively final variable, it holds the compilation. Next, file modifier. Whenever we write the final modifier with any identifier, so that cannot be changed. We can use final with the class, method, field. So what is effectively final? Effectively final means that the value of a variable doesn't change after it is set. It is same like as a final, but we do not explicitly mark final with the variable, and if we put the final, so it works pretty much same. So it's also a kind of a relaxation Oracle has given in Java 8. So all the variables which we use in the Lambda expressions, those are effectively final. Once you set the value, you cannot change, regardless you write the final or not. If you will change later on, compiler will give an error. Okay, next, optional. Java 8 has introduced a class optional, and this class is to express we don't know or not applicable in Java. So you can think of an optional as a box that might have something in it or might instead be empty. I have created one class named myOptional, which has a main method. I would like to create another static method which returns optional type double, and method name is average. I'm going to pass an array of integer, and if scores dot length equals to 0, then it returns optional dot empty. Okay, and if it is not 0, what it does, it add all the scores. For each score in scores, and I'm going to use a compound operator, return optional dot off sum divided by scores dot length. Okay, and it is type double. You can mention here double. All right, so that's what you do whenever you do an average. Add all numbers and divide by the total number. So if it is 0, then return empty, and if it is not 0, return this one. So Now I am going to call this average method and send an array of integer having two values. Let's run this one. So 190, average is 95. Okay, what about if I send an empty? So it will say optional.empty. It won't gonna give the null. This is a benefit of using optional. As you know, the average returns optional type of double. All right, you can see from the method. And it has a method is present. So if it's present, then use the get method to extract the value. Okay, so optional has a method is present to check the value, there is a value, then do this, or you can do something other as well with the else. I'm not defining that one. So the above two you can also write like this: dot if present, then system dot out and println. So you know that what it is. It is actually x and arrow system.out.println and then x. Okay, so let's see. So this is 95, this is empty, this one is giving 95.0 and this is also giving 95.0. Okay, so so with a get method you can extract out the value without this optional type. All right, okay, what about if I store an empty optional and I do s out opt dot get. Okay, so let's see. So it gives an exception, no such element exception, value not present. All right, next let's declare and initialize a string and use a ternary operator. If value is null, then put optional dot empty, otherwise optional dot of value. Okay, all right, so here we check that if the value is null then the empty, otherwise give the value. The above one I can also write like this in a short form: optional dot of nullable and value, which is exactly the same as above. So we have seen is present. If when the option is empty, return false. When option contain value, returns true. We have also seen if present. If the option is empty, does nothing. When contain a value, call consumer with a value. And it's called the consumer, and we have printed out. Right? We send the method reference. The get method, when empty, throw exception, and when contain value, give the value. And what would be the exception? No such element. There's a method called as or else. So what it does, so it says that if optional is empty, print nan, which is not a number. Okay, constant holding not a number. There's also a method or else get. And in this one we can pass a supplier. All right, so if I supply, so what it does, math.random is actually pretty much like this. Okay, so it generates a random number, and if it is empty. Okay, so let's see. Yes, this is a random number. All right, so beside or else get, we have or else throw. So if the option is empty, throw an exception. Next is or else throw with supplier. So here we can send an object of illegal SS error. Instead of no such element, we can throw our particular exception as well. Okay, so this is pretty much same like this one. All right, it has thrown an exception which we have sent in. So you cannot put an exception inside the get method. Okay, so if I do here same like as above. Illegal state exception. So it does not compile. All right. For the exception, you should use one of these. What about if I do everything over here? With a number. And what would be the result? Let's see. Yeah, 95 and 95. Okay. So or else executes when we do not have value in the option. And what it does, it also won't going to throw an exception because we have the value and it's printed 95. So all have printed 95. Okay. So now you can see that we have gone over all these methods. I hope you like my video and provide your feedback. Wish you best of luck for your exam. Thank you.